Welcome to the Property Funder podcast. I'm your host, Michael Dean. You can find me on the internet at property_funder. First thing I like to do is to thank the show's sponsor, Avamore Capital. Avamore Capital is a development and bridging lender based here in London, lending between £250,000 and £25 million on refurbs, bridge loans, and on development projects. We don't just lend in London, we lend all across England and Wales. So please get in touch, www.avamorecapital.com. Now, if you are a returning visitor to the show, thank you very much. If I can please ask you to hit that like and subscribe button, whether you're on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to give us a 5-star review. Now, without further ado, let's have a chat with our guest. Nick, welcome to the show. Could you please just tell everyone your full name, the name of your business, and what your business does?
So I'm Nick Christofi. I'm the CEO of Karis Capital. Karis Capital are a specialist debt and insurance advisory, specialising in real estate, debt finance and insurance, covering development finance, structured finance, bridging finance, commercial term loans and portfolio finance. Alongside that, we also have a insurance business which covers all types of business and property insurance.
All right, Nick, thanks very much for that introduction. Now, I know you've obviously had to do that for the few people who are living under a rock who don't know who you are, but for the vast majority of people in the specialist finance industry, they'll know exactly who you are, and they'll have a good idea about your background. But obviously, one of the things we're hoping to uncover today is to tell people a little bit more about you, kind of peel back the onion a little bit, and I guess having known you for a long time, regard you as one of the sort of best in class, big bears of the industry, and so very keen to learn a little bit more myself, frankly, from you as to how you sort of secrets to success. I'm sure the lenders that are tuning in, they're going to want to know how we can get a bit more business from you, and there's plenty of people also in the industry who frankly want to know how they can work for you, not just with you. So we've got some good questions lined up. Let's just take a start. Topical thing at the moment. We're recording on the 23rd of May. Yesterday, Rishi Sunak announced that he was going to have a general election on July the 4th. Personally, not sure it's going to make a huge difference to what's happening in our market, which maybe is a bit of a change from the norm when it comes to general elections. But what's your view on the calling of the general election?
I don't let it concern me. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, I think we have to adapt either way, whether it's positive or whether it's negative. If we look at, for example, let's take it back to Liz Truss, for example. That was an absolute nightmare for the market. Triggered a lot of uncertainty, but then that also created a lot of opportunity. So if I look back, say, to where the market is now compared to 08, 09 and the global financial crisis back then, we've got liquidity in this market at the moment. And when there's liquidity, there's opportunity. And I feel like when the market's in a good place, people are buying, people want that extra bit of leverage, people want to be a bit creative about their financing. When you get into a market like we are now and it's uncertain and interest rates have increased, people require the advice. And I think that's where people sitting in my position and good advisors out there can really, really reap the benefits. We haven't been, and we will never be a transactional business. We are in the relationship field with our clients and with our lenders. So, I'll give you an example. We had a client of ours that we've been trying to get into for over 10 years, very well banked by all of the clearing banks. Liz Truss happened, market changes, clearing bank no longer wants to restructure his facility. People that we were trying to fire into for 5-10 years, trying to build relationships with, all of a sudden, they need the advice. They need our expertise. They need to lean on and leverage our relationships. So I don't really concern myself with what is happening globally. Maybe I should. But either way, we still need to work, right? So regardless of what happens, we need to adapt, and we need to just keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on out there. And I try not to go and concern myself with what's happening, because there's going to be opportunity. If you're good at what you do, you'll make money and you'll grow a business. Yeah,
I think it's pretty well said, frankly. I think particularly a business like yours, which has a broad range of service lines, isn't overly reliant, let's say, on the bridge or the development space. It does mean that, especially if you're restructuring a commercial facility, I think a lot of the time people think, well, if the property market's active, then brokers are going to be doing well, and if it's not active, brokers won't be doing well. But frankly, whether you're doing a resi remortgage or whether you're doing a restructuring of a commercial facility, you've got an opportunity as a broker, an advisor, to earn your worth, make some money, because you're still going to make money if you do a restructuring, or whether you're doing a new purchase. It's still business.
So people say to me, what the question? Listen, we're known for doing some really large and complex deals, but people say to me, "Oh, Nick, what's your space? What's your loan amount? What's your minimum loan amount that you work on?" And we're actually not loan amount driven. We're people driven. So regardless whether it's a 200 grand buy to let remortgage or a 20 million pound structured bridge facility, we're focused on the person, the relationship, and where the potential of that relationship is with regards to growth. Okay. We've set up our business, and I think you'll find that a lot of firms are going down this route now, where they're product line focused rather than, and they have teams in different product lines. So it's very easy to say, right, okay, I'm going to have a buy-to-let team, a resi team. I'm going to have a commercial team. But commercial, for example, is so broad. You could have retail, you could have trading business, you could have PBSA, you could have social housing, you could have industrial data centers, care homes, hotels, hospitality, very broad. So I think it's important to be able to understand and advise in the right asset classes and the right product lines. So for us, we've made sure that we've educated our staff and they get continuous training, and we look to employ people and bring people within our business that can bring some additional expertise. And that's where I think there's where you can weather storms when it comes to difficult markets. So for example, let's say the bridging market was tomorrow to really be in a difficult place. You then rely on, so let's get back to basics. Let's get back to providing good buy-to-let remortgages service. So we're in the service game. However anybody looks at it, we are in the service game. And I feel as long as you have integrity, you're transparent, your service is good, regardless of what happens out there, which a lot of the time we don't have any control over. Okay, so I've always been a very firm believer of control things, worry about things that you're in control of. You can't start stressing out about things that you're not in control of. So when you come to things like financial markets and things like that, a lot of the time, listen, we're advisors. We're a very small fish in a very large property pond. Things are going to be out of our control. What can we do? We can just sit there, and we need to have a look and see where the opportunities are and make sure that the things that we do them properly.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting to hear that, because the thing that I'm thinking about is I had 2-3 weeks ago, I had Matthew Yassin come on, and Matthew's approach is he'll farm out the stuff that he doesn't do. So the smaller stuff, the 200k buy to let, for example, he'll farm that out to someone else that he deems to be more specialised, who can provide that client.
Matt, give me a call on that, mate. I'll help you out.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he will. I'm sure he's listening or watching. How do you feel that? How do you look at that from the contrasting standpoint? Because you're looking to be sort of, I suppose, in fairness, whole of market, whereas Matthew wants to do much more debt advisory, more complex, larger tickets, much more in keeping with the sort of skill set that, that his team.
I think I see both sides of it. I think if you're a smaller business, then resource is obviously limited as well. And there's only enough, a certain amount of hours in the day. So you probably can't go and do all of it. Whole of market is a term that I don't really use a whole lot, if I'm being honest with you. From a regulatory standpoint, are we whole of market? Absolutely. Realistically, we're in the delivery business, right? And for me, I don't typically like to go and use the whole market. I lean on relationships. I like relationships. I like to be able to work with people that I've worked with where I can pick up the phone and get something to happen. Going back to your question about passing and farming things out, I think from a smaller, when it comes, and I don't mean this disrespectfully at all, but I think if you are limited in resource, then there's probably an opportunity, there's probably the need to be able to go and do that, because you can end up just your time is money, right? And if you're getting suffocated with the smaller stuff, which is very process driven, then it's going to have an impact on your bottom line. So we're a little bit different. For me, I'm very, like I said, I'm client focused. So I don't want the opportunity for somebody else to go and speak to my client about all of the other product lines. So yes, it's passing out a 200 grand buy to let now, but we've got a really ambitious borrower there that has aspirations for going and becoming a professional property investor stroke developer. I don't want the opportunity for anybody else to go and speak to that person.
And let's just talk about client capture and then client retention from a brokerage perspective. Obviously, I have a pretty good understanding of it, but can you just talk to our audience and explain, for those that don't know, or maybe don't fully understand it, especially if they're in the early stages of, say, a broking career or a lending career, why it's so important to keep hold of the client and how difficult it is to win clients from other brokers?
It's the hardest thing in the world to win clients. It is and it isn't. I think one of my this might sound okay. Let's deal with the first thing. It's really hard to win clients. Okay, and what people forget is that typically you're dealing with somebody's biggest financial commitment they're going to make in their entire life, in many instances. Okay, so trust is the most paramount thing when you're speaking to these clients and engaging with them and being on a level with them where they understand that you are the right person and they can trust you to go and deliver, to give them the right advice, to leverage on your relationship to be able to go and execute a facility that's going to work for them. That's hard. And then we've got other brokers in the industry that are also very, very, very good and are remarkable. And then you're coming up against these guys and you're having to really work that extra bit harder to try and win the business. But once you've got them, you have to look after them. I mean, I've got a bugbear with, and I think a lot of people have with lawyers, people that don't pick up the phone. I can't stand people that don't use the phone and just do everything by email. For me, I think you need to, however you look at it, we need to be on call for those clients and we need to be able to give them that service that makes you an invaluable part of their decision making when it comes to all of their finances. So, like I said, you don't have that when you're transactional, but you do have that if you want to be relationship focused. And for me, this is a people and relationship focused business.
So on that basis, you're not going to let that 200K buy-to-let client go anywhere else.
No.
Because as soon if that broker does a good job, then that client's going to develop an attachment to them.
Absolutely. And it just takes one deal. Okay. Now, I would say in this market, more than any other market, that has become more relevant. So let's go back, say, over the last 10 years. cost of capital has pretty much been the same across the board with most lenders. You might get 20, 30 basis points if it's a similar sort of deal. Obviously, you've got, whether it's adverse or whether it's any kind of credit impairment or wrinkle around the deal, then obviously that changes based on price for risk. But predominantly, people have had free money for the last 10 years, okay? So what happens when you go and get into a market like this? We're the one area where people will always go and get a second opinion in this market. And sometimes you need to let them go and do that, okay? But the cost of capital has increased so much, and it has probably put on a strain on a lot of people's business models and business plans, that they have to go and get that second opinion. They're not just going to put trust in what you say straight away. People are going to go and shop around. So for me, in this market, you have to be able to go and give the right advice, explain everything, give them various options, and put proposals together which they can read and digest and understand that they are getting the right advice. For me, this market is all about advice, but I think we're in a market where people are going to shop around and not just going to take your word as gospel anymore, because it has drastically changed over the last 18 months.
Do you think the preceding, say, 10 years or 8, 9, 10 years, and I use that frame of reference because it's what, the 9th year, I've been in the specialist finance market, 9, 10 years.
Yeah.
Do you think that this period, sort of coming up, using maybe the watershed moment as the sort of Liz Truss, sort of that Liz Truss kamikaze budget as sort of the watershed moment, do you think everything going up to that point, from a brokerage standpoint, was it just too easy? Was the market just too easy for brokers in lots of ways?
Yeah, I think we've had a good run. And easy in some respects, but I also think it was a bit of there were certain scenarios where I thought, what is actually happening to this market? Because I believe as advisors, we've got a responsibility not only to our clients, but we've also got a responsibility to our lenders. Okay. Now, there were many instances where we would have a look over a deal and we'd eye up a deal and say, I don't know if I back this deal enough to go and stick it into one of my lenders who I know would probably do it, but I didn't really have the faith to go and do it. So there were instances where I walked away from deals, didn't quite like the borrower, didn't quite trust the scheme. And there were people that would go in and lend in on certain deals, and I thought, this is wrong. It's just blatantly wrong. The due diligence, I think when you're in a rising market, I've seen it in many occasions where the due diligence is not as on point as when you're in a market like this. Okay, so you're in a rising market. I tell you what, if the guy has a little bit of a cost overrun or he has a little bit of a delay, the market is far going to outweigh that cost overrun or delay. So we'll be okay. I think it's the wrong way to go and look at it. I don't think it's responsible lending, and I think there are many. And what happens is where you're getting I see lenders getting money from all of their different funding lines, and they need to go and deploy because it's burning a hole in their pocket. That they're going and lending on stuff that they shouldn't be. So, yeah. So the answer to your question is: do I think it's been easy? Absolutely, has been too easy. And I actually enjoy markets like this. I love it. I think you're dealing with sophisticated borrowers. You're dealing with people that understand risk. You're dealing with lenders that understand risk. And this is where you really, really add value to your clients by shaping a deal, giving the right advice, structuring it the right way. And you do that in this market, people won't forget you. That's what I see. I think it has been a little bit too easy over the last 10 years.
How do you think it's going to play out over the next 18 months for those brokers who are brokers? I mean, the borrowers, I think, is another point, but how do you think it's going to play out for, say, brokers who've been over-reliant on that sort of easy money, easy market? Val comes in, MS report comes in, lenders say yes, that's all changed now? How do you think it's going to play out for a lot of those people?
I hope they're going to be okay, because they've got a living. These guys have got businesses to run, but they're going to have to adapt. They're going to have to adapt, and I think if you're not willing to adapt now, and really see that the market has shifted, then I think you could get left behind. But I think most people, listen, you're always going to have some casualties in these sorts of markets, whether it's brokerages, whether it's developers. There are going to be some casualties. What I would say though is, if you look at some of the big firms out there that have got great infrastructure, that have got different, diverse ways of generating income, these guys will be okay. And then you've got the other extreme is you then got the one-man bands, so they haven't got the overheads. So I don't think we're going to see too many casualties. It might restrict new people coming into the industry and getting new blood. And over the last 3-4 years, we've seen some really, really good talent come into the industry, and guys that have got there's some young guys that I've seen that have come into the industry that I think are going to make absolute waves moving forward. That might be put on hold for a little bit. Is it the right time to go and get into this sector? I don't know. But I think if we can weather the storm for the next 18 months, we'll see some good times again. And I think the market will be good. I just think it will be a different market. I think a market that I'll probably prefer, if I'm being honest with you. I think it's been a little bit too easy.
Yeah. Yeah, you want a little bit of spice.
Yeah,
not too spicy, but a little bit of spice. Because if it's all a bit easy, then
absolutely,
we see what we've seen recently. How do you think it's going to play out on the lending side? And do you think, based on some of the stuff you've probably had come back, stuff that you turned down way back when, it's come back around to you, with these lenders looking to exit them and being in trouble? Are there any? Have you got your eye on a few lenders where you're like, oh, I've seen too many deals from this lender or that lender, and they must be in trouble?
Listen, they're never. I think from the lending side, it's quite a difficult one, because you'll be able to tell me, give me a better picture on it. But I think what people don't want to go and do is just put too many of their loans into default, because it then has a negative effect on the rest of their loan book and funding lines and things like that. Okay, so people, for the first time, I'm really, really surprised that lenders have gone as long as they have gone on for, trying to help and support their borrowers. And it's the right thing to do, don't get me wrong, but I think a lot of it isn't because they're trying to be nice. I think a lot of it is their hand is being forced to be able to go and do so and work through, because of the negative impact it could have on the rest of their business. I don't see too many lenders going. If I'm being honest with you. But I think, like we said, we go back 1.5 years, 2 years ago, every single week I was getting a phone call from a new lender. I'd say, Nick, we want to come in and see you. We're a new lender. We're doing this, we're doing that, blah, blah, blah. And I think that's been put on hold now as well. If unless you've got a really special type of capital at the moment, it's probably a bit of a difficult market to go and get into right now from a standing start with no origination power. Yeah,
I think it's funny. I think one of the reasons I think when we started Avonmore was kind of Goldilocks. It was a bit of the Goldilocks time to do it. Because it was just, when we started, you could lend at close to 1 a month.
Yeah.
And so you could get private investor capital, pay them 8-9%. And then as the rates started to come in, institutional money came into the market, came and found its way to us. Right now, if you're talking to a high net worth and say, well, I can lend you money.
Give you 8%. They're like, why? I can get 6 in the bank.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And so I can completely understand it. But it used to make me laugh, because every time I'd read B&C or one of the trade press alerts and be like, new lender emerges. And it was like literally every week.
Every week.
Yeah.
Every week. And I don't understand how, and again, this is what scares me, that they were new into the market. They wanted to make a wave. and they were probably lending on stuff that they probably shouldn't have lent on because they needed to deploy a certain amount of capital. I've always been a firm believer of dealing with my trusted relationships, people that are well capitalized. So the first question I always ask in every lender when they come in to see us, where does your money come from? How stable is it? Is it discretionary? Can you make the decision? Can your boss in the office make the decision on whether to go and do this deal or not? Because that then allows us to relay that back to our borrower and say, right, we're going to lend and we're in conversation with somebody that is going to make the decision on this transaction. It's not going to a third party fund that's based out in the US that doesn't understand the microeconomics of a asset down in wherever. You know, we're gonna be speaking to people that can make that decision in house.
So what if the answer to that question is no? If all the questions you've asked, right? What if the answer to any of those questions is no? Is that it? You won't deal with that lender, or how do they?
We don't deal with them, but they're not going to be top of the list, right?
Yeah,
it's trust. I need the borrowers have to trust us to be able to go and deliver, and I need to be able to trust my lender that they are going to go and deliver. You know, so for me, I always say to our clients, pricing is a very, very important part of the transaction. Don't go and get me wrong, but it's not the sole. It's not the sole part of the deal that you have to look at. You need to look at everything else around it as well.
I guess pricing's more important when the term of the loan is longer and you're going to be committed to that price for a lot longer. And I mean, again, speaking as a borrower here, and I think at the same time, but at the same time, if it's a development project or it's something where you're going to need maybe, or it's a time sensitive deal, so you need to make an acquisition. You want to rely on performance. There are situations where performance is more important than price.
I think in every scenario, performance is better than price, if I'm being honest with you. And it's not just performance of getting the deal over the line in the first instance. There is not one development deal I've ever transacted on that has gone smoothly all the way through the whole cycle of the development loan. There's always been something. It could be planning. It could be something they found in the ground. There could be an issue with a subby, with a main contractor. So performance for me isn't just getting the deal over the line. Performance is, okay, when I do get into that sticky point, am I working with a lender that can support my borrower to navigate their way out of those situations, or are they going to put their foot on their neck from day one?
What's interesting is that even as a commercial borrower, I mean, obviously I don't do a lot of borrowing on the development side. Obviously I do. There's plenty of lending on that side, and we've certainly got a lot of experience in that. But as a commercial borrower, I recently acquired a relatively large asset by our family standards, and so we had a tenant lined up to take one of the units, a small lease of one of the vacant units, and before we bought it, and now we're about to transact on it. And the experience we're actually having with the lender to try and get a consent to lease, something that's pretty basic, pretty standard. The lender's own solicitor reviewed the entire suite of leases. The lease is in exactly the same form, 2 months ago, and it's taking the best part of 3 weeks to get that consent out of them. Do you ever look at I know it's, you talk about development, obviously you need a much more proactive lender in that situation, but even on the commercial finance side,
100%.
Do you consider the behaviour of that lender and the response times and the costs in the life of the loan, as well as the actual underlying cost of borrowing?
So what we've realised is that with your bigger clients, okay, again, like we don't want to be transaction with them. We want to be relationship focused. We need to think about the bigger clients are always going to want that relationship with their lending manager. Okay. So I think part of our job is also to marry up personalities. And okay, so this is the relation. This lender is going and giving that rate, and it's cheap, and it's 2.5 over base. But I've got a lender that I know will be absolutely brilliant from an individual point of view for my client. Okay, so the relationship director, I know that those two will get on. There'll be the relationship focus. This borrower needs a lender that is going to be reactive, is going to pick up the phone when he calls him, but that comes at a premium and it might be 2.75 over base. I think we need to have those conversations and say and give the clients, again, when I say it's not just about price, this is the cheapest loan on the market, but it's going to be hard to go and get it through. And when you've completed, you might not have that relationship that you're going to have with this lender, which is slightly more expensive, but they're going to be on call for you whenever you want them, and there's a premium to pay for that. And I think your more established property players, they understand the value in that because they've probably been hit too many times when that hasn't been the case, and they've gone solely for price and realised that over the course of the facility, it's probably ended up costing them more money anyway.
I'd definitely pay another 25 basis points a
You
year
would.
For a more responsive, better process. I mean, Christ, the lender that I'm borrowing from on this particular transaction, the relationship manager only works 4 days a week. They have a policy whether everyone in the bank only works 4 days a week.
With.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's probably a completely different subject of where this world is going. But yeah, 4 days a week, it's ridiculous. But anyway.
Well, I saw I mean, it gets worse because I saw an article where certain companies are giving their staff over the summer sort of they're only making like half days on Fridays, and could you imagine in the property industry, solicitors, lenders, you say sorry, we have to
only work half day.
I'm only working half day.
Every single completion happens on a Friday afternoon, yet you're going to go and have a half day.
Yeah.
It really makes sense.
And that's why I think, particularly with this bank, my relationship manager only works Monday to Thursday, but the person, their underwriter or the person in the credit team works Tuesday to Friday. So they only have three overlapping days.
I don't know what's happened, and there's been a real shift in expectation with regards to working. I mean, I think one of the biggest questions that people ask all the time is working from home policies. Not a fan. I don't think you can be as productive working from home. I understand that there are certain mitigating circumstances sometimes, or you want the odd day here and there, which I think we're open to giving that flexibility. But I think when someone's coming in for a job and the first question they ask is what's your working from home policy, it just tells me everything that I need to know.
I think that's actually a brilliant filter for your interview.
Absolutely. So I love it when they ask that question because I know that I know what the answer is going to go and be to it.
You know how motivated they are.
Absolutely.
I mean, look, I know it myself. Although I'm in my current situation, I'm sort of the beneficiary of a very sort of flexible geographical working basis. But when you're working across 5 different businesses, there's no point really being fixed in any one place anyway.
No, I get it.
But from an Avonmore perspective, we have everyone working in the office 4 days a week. Yeah. They have that flexibility on a Friday if they want to work remotely. And I think there's certain circumstances, certain roles to be able to work in a quiet space where people aren't constantly badgering you or talking about the football or whatever, things that just naturally part of office lifestyle. I think I get that, and I understand why you might want to have a little bit of time away from the office and work somewhere else. Having said that, though, you've got a team where you've got very experienced individuals. We've got Director of Credit, Matt Foley, took him from Octopus. Probably since Amit left Avonmore, it's probably the one person I'd say that probably knows.
Matt is brilliant.
Knows more than me a hair about certain aspects of credit, or recovery and risk and things like that. So you think, well, if you've got someone like that in the office, you want everyone to be able to learn from that, and you're only going to learn from them if they're in place. And I guess in your situation, and obviously you can speak to this, you've got a huge amount of experience. You've got other senior guys in your team who've got a huge amount of experience, and you've got young members of staff who need to be hearing and picking up from what you're saying, and they're not going to get that if they're on Zoom.
And that was my biggest thing. We often bounce deals around the office, and you get someone standing up saying, "Guys, got this deal. What do you reckon I should do with it?" And then straight away, people will jump in and they will speak about it. And that's how you develop a buzz. It's how you develop a culture. It's how you develop a team ethos. And for me, the learning side of it for young guys young girls coming into the industry, it's so important to have that office environment. We're in the city. Everyone wants to work in the city. We're working in one of the financial hubs of the world. Why would you not want to be in here and be in this environment and learn and develop your network and develop your skill set? I think if you look at a lot of the corporates that started shutting their big offices down and everyone was working from home, and I was sitting there thinking about these graduates that have just come out of university. How on earth were they supposed to learn? They were working from home for the first year after COVID. I'm thinking, how are these people supposed to go and learn and develop a career? And it's not just about, especially in this business, it's not about understanding the technical product guides and shaping a deal. It's relationships. How do you communicate? A lot of the younger people, obviously, we live in a world now where kids aren't living as much of an outdoor life as what they used to. They're maybe not involved in as many sports teams as when we were younger. They're on their computers, on their iPads. We've got a very introverted youth today. So for them to go and be in the office is an important part of their development in terms of how to communicate with people, how to sell to people. We're in a sales environment, right? You're not going to learn how to sell from sitting in your pants on your laptop in front of Sky Sport News. It's not going to happen.
I mean, you talked about picking up the phone and the importance of it. With your young members of staff, or just the culture generally, how do you make, because we know that particularly sort of people between 20 and 30 or 20 and 35, they're way more likely to want to do this or this than this. How do you get them to pick up the phone and start dialing? So the first thing that we always say is that whenever you deliver bad news, and we often have to do it in this industry, okay, it has to be done by phone. I'm not having anybody in the business because it's just not the right way to look after your customer. You have to pick up the phone and you need to be able to give bad news over the phone, but also give a solution at the same time. And for me, that's the biggest thing that I could say. You need to front it, you need to face it, you need to be honest with people, because they, regardless whether they like the outcome, they will respect you and they'll respect the decision, okay? So that for me is really important, and we need to get and develop these younger advisors to a position where you you need to have empathy, but it also has to be done empathetically, because again, like we said, the biggest financial commitment of their lives in many instances, that is part of the job. And I genuinely believe if you can't get used to giving bad news and delivering it the right way, I don't think you can be any good in this job. It's as simple as that. So for me, that's a big part of it, is you need to communicate bad news in the right way, empathetically, and come up with a solution. And I think once you get that bit, everything else then becomes a whole lot easier. And I suppose, because you've answered the question I was going to, I was just about to ask anyway, but I suppose in terms of getting things moving forward as well, do you want to just talk about how important or how powerful a phone call is versus sending an email or a WhatsApp or a text?
It is. I mean, I think there's so in our office, it's sometimes people don't actually know what's going on in there, because you've got people walking up and down and left and right, in and out of different meeting rooms. And I've always said to people, motion causes emotion. Yeah. So I encourage everybody to get up when they're talking to people, put a call into somebody, walk around the office, because sometimes it's not what you say, but it's how you say it and how you deliver it. And so many things can be misinterpreted in an email. Don't get me wrong, emails are amazing, and I think it's a huge part of what we do. But I think there's no substitute for being able to pick up the phone or having a face-to-face meeting with somebody, or a Teams call or whatever. It's just maybe I'm a little bit traditional like that, but if I'm dealing with somebody, I like to be able to speak to them and understand them and get to know them. They're going to trust you to go and deliver on the biggest financial commitment of their life. They want to understand and know the person that's dealing with that on their behalf. And that's why I say it's a relationship-based people-focused business more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think property is particularly people-focused. But I mean, I think about as a lender, when you're trying to deal with service providers, I know it's a bit of a trope that lawyers don't tend to answer the phone. So you sometimes you're left with no other option than to email.
Yeah, of course.
But I think things like valuers, monitoring surveyors, and other professionals, I think if you pick up the phone, they're way more likely to respond to you and work on or prioritise your work.
100%.
Whereas if you send them an email, your emails can get buried at the bottom of a list of another 100 other emails.
I always say pick up the phone and discuss a deal first. Give somebody all of the wrinkles around it. Give somebody all the issues if there are any. Talk it through. They'll more likely be amenable to help. If there's time constraints, you can explain the time constraints from the outset rather than send an email saying, this is really urgent, I need time to turn back within 2 hours. Well, there's when you giving somebody that sort of demand, people don't respect it. Pick up the phone, discuss it. This is the situation. This is why I need to turn back in the next couple of hours. Can you do me a favour and help me out on it? It's relationships.
Yeah, completely agree with that. Changing tack slightly, obviously you're now you recently were nominated or shortlisted for Best Young Property Person of the Year for the Props Awards.
So I saw.
I was very pleased to put your name into the mix. And
thank you very, very much.
Yeah, so
thank you very much. And you know what? I think for me, when it comes to nominations for awards, I think it's always nice to, when you're in great company as well. And there are some great names on those lists, on that list, and through all of the categories actually. I'm actually looking forward to that event. It's going to be a fantastic lunch. I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, there's still some tickets available. It's on June 27th, and just get in touch if you want, or you can go to the Variety website. But I mean, I think what it speaks to is that we were deciding who made the actual shortlist from a long list of very, very, there were some big names that didn't make the cut. And what was interesting was the number of people that actually were, voted for you within the committee.
Really?
So yeah, there was you had some very good support, and whether you make whether you're the winner or not, you're still. How old are you now, Nick?
38.
You're 38. So you've got a couple more years. If it's not this year, then we've got another year or two. But we haven't. The final decision's not made, so we'll see how the voting goes. But obviously, being now sort of an award winner, someone who's highly regarded and looked up to as a young entrepreneur. Can we just talk about the story as to how you got here? How did you get into the property finance industry?
Right, it goes back to when I was about 17 years old. Okay, unfortunately, my parents got divorced when I was about 17 years old, and once the divorce got finalised, my mother got her settlement, and we needed to go and find a house to live in, which we ended up moving in and living with my grandmother. And at the time, from a cultural perspective, being Greek Cypriot, property is very much in our DNA. Okay, pretty much like some of the other communities, your Jewish communities, your Indian communities. Property is just something that we all aspire to be involved with, so to speak. So we had to go and see a mortgage advisor to understand what our options were, and I went along with my mother, and we decided to go and buy, to help my mum with her income, to invest into a buy-to-let property. And we went and saw one of my mate's dads, who's still in the business today. And every time I see him, I thank him, because if it wasn't for him giving my mother that advice and for me being at that meeting, I probably wouldn't be here today. So I went there, and I loved the idea of sales. I loved the idea of property. I loved the idea of speaking to people on a regular basis, and just being able to go out and meet and see different kinds of people. Actually, I must have been a little bit older, because at the time, I was about 18, 19, because I was in and out of jobs. I started uni, started to do surveying, lasted about 2 weeks. 4-hour lectures on concrete really worked for me. So after I met him, I decided, right, this is what I want to go and do. So I went and bought all of the books and I sat there and I studied 9 to 5 on my own. First time I'd shown any discipline and stuck something out. And then I went and passed my exams. And I'll never forget, because I worked for somebody and I phoned him and I said, I've been introduced to you by this person. He said for me to come and see you about a job. And he's gone to me, okay, have you passed your CMAP? And I went, no, I'm doing them now. He goes, right, well, phone me when you've got your CMAP. I went, okay. So I phoned him and I said to him, I passed the first half of it, but I failed the second module by a mark. He goes, so why are you phoning me? I went, okay, fair enough. So I went back, passed my exam, phoned him, and he said to me, all right, he goes, oh, brilliant, well done. My PA will call you at the end of the day to arrange to come and see me. I went, okay, you promise she's going to phone me? Yeah, call you by the end of the day. Got to 6 o'clock in the evening and I never had a phone call. And I don't know what came over me, but I think I went football that night and played, and I think we lost the match as well. And I come out and I was really angry that we lost the game and angry that I never got a phone call. So I sent him a text at about 9 o'clock at night saying, what did I say to him? I said to him, I'd really appreciate it if you called me. I take my career very, very seriously. And I suggest if you say you're going to go and do something, that you should actually go and do it. And this was a guy that had a really successful business at the time. And I went in on so first thing in the morning, his PA calls me. He wants to see you Friday. Okay. Went and got my suit dry cleaned, went in for the interview. He's turned up half an hour late on purpose to teach me a lesson. Turned up in shorts, t-shirt, strolls into the office, walks in, I'm sitting there in his office, goes, who the hell do you think you're talking to when you're sending messages like that? And I went, yeah, I'm sorry. I said, but I just take my career really, really seriously. And this is what I want to go and do. He goes, you're hired. He's gone to me. And that was the first interview. I never interviewed well. I had another couple of jobs previous to that, and I never interviewed well. And I always struggled in interviews, and I don't think I ever got a job off the back of an interview. So for me, I knew that then it was, I think maybe so I went straight in off the back of not having even one client. I went in and took a self-employed role. I backed myself from day one with no basic salary at all. And then from there, I think the hunger and the desire that I had was probably what separated me to so many other people in my career journey and accelerated my growth. But I worked every hour that God sent, and I got in front of as many people as I could, and it was a numbers game, and I loved meeting entrepreneurs. The property world is full of some of the most charismatic, fun entrepreneurs and people you'll ever meet in your life. And it's just amazing to go and be around. And you hear so many different success stories, and you hear so many rags to riches stories. And it's quite a special community, and I love being part of it. So off the back of that, I then built up my clientele. He decided to downsize his business, and I actually had an opportunity to go and set up a commercial arm of a different business, which I went into, which was Robert Sterling Financial Services. Still very, very good friends to this day with Nino, who runs that business. Great business. And set up the commercial side, and then after a period of time, realised that I wanted to, again, specialise and move on and continue to grow and learn. I'd seen Rob jump at a couple of industry events, and we sat down, and over a period of time we were talking, and then the time was right, and we decided to go and thrash out a deal for me to come in and see how we got on together. And then off the back of that, set up what was to be Serious Property Finance. which I think, looking back now, was set up in 2016, I believe. Along those
That
lines.
makes sense, yeah. That's roughly my memory of it, yeah.
Yeah, so that, I mean, and listen, we that's where the journey has taken me, and then started setting that up as a one-man band in the city.
Just around the corner from here, actually.
Just around the corner from here. And I remember we had obviously, you're in the city, you've got different types of overheads and pressures, and obviously I've set up a new business now. I need to make sure that I can deliver and bring some money in. And I remember phoning all of my lenders saying, guys, I've landed, I'm in the city. Is there anything I can do to help you? Can we do some business together?
How did you approach, I suppose, being a business owner and someone who's running the business? How did you split your time between working in the business
and on the business? Listen, it's hard, and I think if you speak to some of the other business owners that still write, I've always been one where I believe that you, especially in our industry, the guys that have got the respect and commanded the respect are the guys that have done the deals and done the business. And I think I always go back to, this could be a really weird football analogy, but you've got Tony Adams and you've got Patrick Vieira. Sorry to bring up Arsenal, guys, but it's what I always go back to. I think Tony Adams was a great leader, but Patrick Vieira led by example. So what he done on the football pitch gave everyone else around him the lift to also then perform. He and I think if I look at some of my peers in the industry that have got really successful businesses, the top guys have also been some of the top business writers as well. So I naturally think that and I think when you're a salesperson, you're an advisor, you never actually want to lose it anyway. If you're a proper sales guy and you've done big numbers and you love being in the mix of a deal, you never want to walk away fully from it anyway. And I don't think I ever will, if I'm being honest with you. I'll always want to keep my toe in the water somehow.
Yeah. So, but notwithstanding that, you were able to grow a team, grow a business. Were there any particular things that you did to help you with that? So you had someone who, I know your sister was in the business as well. She's still with me. So Leonie has been with me since I first started Sirius. She came in literally, I think she was number 3 or 4 through the door. And she really gave us that infrastructure from an ops side. And she came out of teaching. So naturally she was very nurturing. She was very, always wanted to give a helping hand, and she was basically the mother at work. Basically, she was the glue in the business. She kept everybody together. And I was lucky that from a marketing perspective, Kim had worked with me for a while as well, and she elevated that branding when we started. And when she came in, she really took it to another level and really got our name out there. Her network is fantastic as well. So we've had some really good people behind the scenes that have added real value to the businesses, both there and where I am now. So enabled you to sort of to put your own particular style and brand of leadership onto the business, and maybe took a lot of the administrative hassle and the administrative burden that ultimately someone has to do it, right?
Yeah,
from a leadership perspective.
But I mean, I think if you speak to any business owner, the hardest thing is delegating, but it got to even a couple of weeks ago. I mean, you often have moments where you feel quite overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that you've got going on. And I pulled in my team, and I said to my leadership team, and I said to them, guys, we've employed you for a reason. I trust everything that you do. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. You don't need to keep me included on absolutely everything that you're doing. I trust you. Go away. You're going to do it better than me anyway. And even if you go and do something and copy me into it, 9 times out of 10, I probably can't change it anyway because it's done. So that was really well received. So for me, I like putting trust into my people. I think you need to treat your business, and you can afford to do so when you're a smaller business as well. But you need to treat them with respect, treat them like family, and get everybody on the same page. And that makes your job as a business owner a hell of a lot easier.
What does someone have to do to get your trust, though? In that context, like for you to trust them, that you're going to empower them and to delegate to them that ability to sort of go off and do what they need to do to be successful.
I think attitude is absolutely everything. And I've had a couple of. I've got a real passion for bringing young people into the industry. I think I've had a great turnaround in my life since I've done so, and I feel when you have been as fortunate as what I have, we've also got a responsibility to then bring the next generation through. And the one thing that I always say to all of them is the technical side of it will come. Okay, all I'm looking for is hunger, ambition, drive, attitude, and loyalty. And then everything else, concentrate on those things, everything else will come. Yeah. And I'm a firm believer of that. I genuinely believe it. And I don't need people to go out and get them and prove that he's done something. I will see over a period of time what they're doing. It's not just something that happens from one day to the next. This is a gradual thing that you can see their growth, you can see their attitude, you can see, are they a team player? Are they giving everything for their team? Are they supporting their peers? Are they somebody that rocks up at 9 o'clock and 5 o'clock they're the first ones to get up clock watching and they're gone regardless if there's work to do. It's everyone needs to be on the same page. And I think if everyone's in and ingrained into that culture and that brand and what we're trying to achieve, everyone will progress naturally.
Well, I think something that certainly I think we subscribe to here at Avamore and many other companies with good leadership, good leadership ethos will also feel the same. So 600 million at Sirius in that last full year. 34 people. All sounds like it's going well. So why the move?
Listen, naturally, I'm restricted to what I can say from a legal standpoint anyway.
Sure.
Okay. What I would say is that it was the right time for me. Probably at a different stage in my career with different ambitions that wanted to do things my way, and I've developed how can I put this? I've developed the experience to enable me to go and do it. Okay, we're not having to worry about anything else around me, and I needed to do what was right for me and my family. And it was just a timing thing, and it was the right move to make. And I had some great times there, but for me, it's all about the future now, and growing what I feel will be one of the most successful businesses that this industry has ever seen. And that genuinely is the ambition, doing it with good people.
Do you feel like you're the master of your own destiny now?
Absolutely. And yeah, I'm definitely the master of my own destiny, and there is absolutely nothing that will hold me back. And I'll do things the right way for my business. We've got some really good people with a fantastic board there as well. People that will really, really elevate the growth of the business. People that I look up to and respect a hell of a lot. That have been absolutely pivotal in setting up and the infrastructure and investing in a way where there's going to be substantial growth over the next few years for sure.
And when you went into Karis, you effectively went into an existing platform. So what was So the Karis that you moved into, what was it? When you went?
It's not an existing platform. It was a new business.
It's a completely new business. So that was my misunderstanding.
Yeah.
I thought that it was something that you were going into something that was already.
No. So it was a completely new business that we had achieved. I mean, we started the process, and within 3 months, with obviously how we know how the FCA has certain backlogs and how difficult it is to go and get everything set up with the infrastructure and everything. I reckon we achieved probably 9 months work in about 3 months, 2 to 3 months.
It's impressive.
Really impressive. We were aggressive. We were calculated. And we literally had a team of 6 people working on it from morning till night, every single day and weekends, to be able to go and get us set up and geared up to go and start the new business. And honestly, to those people, that they were amazing, really, really good. We then went and acquired an FCA regulated business as well, which again was a strategic way of us being able to accelerate our move into regulated business, rather than have to go and start and buy a business rather than apply for a new FCA license, which can be quite time consuming. We decided to make a commercial decision and go and acquire a small business to be able to allow us to go and do that. And then we've now started the insurance side of the business, which Solomon, who runs that business for us, is a seasoned pro. He's amazing. He's one of the most positive people I have ever met in my life, and he's good to have around everybody else. He's good. He's the MD of that business. He's good to bounce ideas off of. He knows how important, and we know how important the insurance arm is to what we're trying to go and do as well. And he's been there and he's done it, and he's back in the game now. So he built and sold a fantastic business, and he came out of his non-compete, and we started talking, and here we are. So there's a long-standing relationship there as well, and everything's positive.
I mean, it sounds great. How did you finance the setting up of the business? You know, obviously you're going to be without an income for a little while.
So we were really fortunate at the time that people had a lot of respect for me and my team. Okay, and we quite a large number of advisors and staff came with me as part of our deal. But we were quite fortunate that we had quite a few offers on the table, and we interviewed, and we had lenders that wanted to partner us. We had lenders that wanted to back us. We had some big professional firms that wanted to engage with us and do a deal with us. But for me, we met with it was a very, very, very small world that my friend from school, who is an accountant and one of my advisors that I speak to on a regular basis, and we were having a conversation, and he said to me, well, actually, one of my clients is looking to actually invest into a financial services business. He gave me his track record. I knew of the family, and they had their own family office as well. Very experienced property players, very intelligent guy, Cambridge graduate, built and sold the largest housing management business. I think it's been the only housing management business that has traded to an AIMS listed company. So sophisticated, and we sat down, and the dynamic was right. His team and my team, we sat around the table, and I could honestly say that we probably knew after 3 minutes of the conversation that these were the right people for us, and they've supported us. They understand where our strengths are. We definitely understand where their strengths are, So from a corporate infrastructure perspective, they're fantastic people to be around, and he's got an active role in it's a guy called Dimitri Antonio, and he's got an active role in the business, which is good for me because I'm good at what I do, but I don't know everything, and I'm quite happy to go and say that. And I always say, and we always say, 2 or 3 brains is better than one. So any decision that we make is a collective. It's calculated, and yeah, we're lucky. We're lucky. We've got the infrastructure in place to allow us to grow over the next few years, definitely.
It was like, you made me think of the expression: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Correct. Absolutely.
It sounds like you've got a good partner. I can't say I'm shocked that the name they've got a Greek name. I think sometimes
that was honestly it was coincidence. But listen, it helps. It helps that there was already a mutual connection there with our accountant, which really helped. And listen, we knew the family, we knew each other. We weren't friends, but we knew of each other. We knew that I think both of us had realised that we had good reputations, and it was worth us definitely having a good conversation. So, yeah, it's positive.
Well, I mean, it's great to hear. And how many people are you now in the team?
I think we're up to about 24 already.
Wow, that's very fast. Because you're are you a year old yet, or
no,
not
even this week. 2 weeks ago I was 6 months.
Nice.
So yeah, it's good. It's organic. We put the infrastructure in place now to grow, and yeah, long may it continue. But it's not easy. And anyone that tells you at the moment that it's easy out there or they're having it off, I'll tell you that they're lying. It's a very, very difficult market. There's opportunity. There's good origination out there, but as we came in, we said that the hardest thing at the moment is execution, right?
Yeah.
And I think rightly so in some respects, because there's a lot of people who've had their fingers burned, and just having a bit of uncertainty in the market, it's difficult, but it's positive. It's not going to last forever.
And in terms of what you where you're going with the business, you've obviously got the insurance side of the business, offering regulated mortgages as well as commercial finance. How far do you see the sort of vertical integration going? Are there other service lines? Obviously you've been introduced through an accountancy business. And I know some smaller competitors, like P10 Financial. They've got accountancy. They're about to take on wealth management. Finance broker as well. I mean, where do you see it?
It's crazy because it's crazy because if I look at historically, you always had accountancy practices that would bring in a mortgage broker, but now we're starting to see it the other way. A mortgage advisor firm bringing in an accountancy business as part of their offering. I actually think is really clever. And I've seen a couple of the guys go and do it.
Mantra, I think Mantra had a tie-up, haven't they? They've got a tie-up with
So Mantra, I think Mantra was part of their deal that they've done with Begbie's. So that's brilliant. They're a fantastic business, by the way, and what they've achieved in such a short period of time, I think is amazing. Two fantastic business leaders there, and Nick and Nim. I think they're very, very, very good guys and very good at what they do. So honestly, my congratulations to them. They deserve it. They've done an amazing job. But yeah, they've got it there. But there's a couple of other guys that we've seen that have brought in the accountancy side to their business set up, and I think it's quite a cute move. Listen, I'm not going to turn around here and say we're going to do this and we're going to go and do that. We're very opportunistic. So if we see a good opportunity, we'll invest in it. We'll bring it on board. We'll bring it into the group. But it's about finding the right people as well, right? So for me, it's a people business. We're not going to recruit for the sake of recruiting. We're going to recruit people that fit into the culture and can be part of the family. But yeah, that's for me. It's just finding the right people and the right opportunities.
I think one of the good benefits as well of having that sort of diversified vertical integration is that, if you ever come to want to sell your business, the multiples that someone's going to pay on, say, an accountancy business,
absolutely,
or let's say you end up buying an estate agency with a lettings business,
which has got that renewal income.
Yeah, is that
of course it is.
I mean, even on the regulated mortgage side, right? You're going to have clients renewing every couple of years, aren't you?
Yeah.
So there's. And that's
there's
where
value in it.
That's where there's value in this sort of that diversification of lines. I mean, what have you got an idea as to sort of the long-term goal? Would you be, you talked about larger firms looking to integrate with you, or would you be thinking about an exit at some point, or is it too soon to say?
Listen, it's way too soon to say. Like anything, I think you do things properly, and for me, it's about making money. I don't want to be a business that is making a load of noise but doesn't make any money. So for us, it's about making money, being profitable, reinvesting in areas that we feel that there's growth. And should a deal arise, then you'd never say no to it. You'd be naive to say no, but is that in our thoughts right at this moment? Absolutely not. We've got a long, long way to go before we get to that.
And in terms of coverage, obviously you've got great UK coverage, of course. Yep. Have you looked at, say, the likes? Obviously we had Hugo Jones come on a while back now, but obviously Ennis have got that international presence. Have you got any thoughts to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very, very important. I think with the amount of people that are moving abroad at the moment, I think there needs to be an offering for expats over there, wherever they may be, whether it's Dubai, whether it's Israel, whether it's Saudi, whether it's Spain, people that will, 9 times out of 10 guys that are moving over there that are substantially wealthy, they're going to still have UK and retain UK assets. And I think it's wise to try and move into those markets. So at some point, listen, we act for a lot of Middle Eastern clients anyway. At some point, yes, 100% we'll definitely have a footprint over there as well.
Yeah, and not covering not just the UK lending activities, but probably a broader global subset, or just being UK focused to begin with.
I'd say UK focused to begin with. But I think a natural progression once you're there is to start looking at those markets as well, for sure. Yeah.
Nice. Before we came in, you said that there are a few areas that you thought that there's some opportunities in that you wanted to sort of talk to our audience about. Do you want to give a bit more colour, a bit more context around that?
Yeah, I think, listen, we're in, let's take resi development at the moment, for example. The exit, you go and build a block of flats in London, it's not the easiest time to go and exit and sell those units at £600,000, £700,000 a unit. And simply because your target buyer is going to be heavily reliant on a mortgage 9 times out of 10. And with where the cost of borrowing is on those mortgages, it's going to make it slightly difficult. So we've seen a lot of our bigger clients, our developer clients, start moving into different markets, and we feel that the opportunity over the next 2 to 3 years is going to be around opcos that are backed by real estate. So care homes, hospitality, hotels, build to rent, co-living, PBSA. So we love real estate in this country. It's what we do. But the operational side is going to be absolutely paramount to that, because if we're just looking at bricks and mortar values and being able to go and sell towers of 1,000 units, I don't think that market is where your bigger players and your bigger funds are going to want to go and invest their money at the moment. So we feel that the opco side, backed by real estate, is going to be where it's going to be moving forwards. Social housing, again, another key area. If Labour go and get in, then that's obviously going to accelerate that as well. And that's definitely here to stay. We're seeing some of the margins on assisted living is amazing as well at the moment. So I think if you're going to be a good property player now, you need to be nimble, and you need to find out where the opportunities are. Because if you don't, and you're just sticking to your bog standard big resi developments for sale, I think you could come unstuck. You need to. Now is the time to start looking at other opportunities, definitely. And again, with the finance side of it, from our perspective, we need to adjust to that as well to understand that it's not just simply resi development anymore that is where the market is going to be.
So talking about that sort of operational real estate, I mean, I think that's absolutely certainly the top of my mind as someone who invests as a family in offices. One of the things that we're thinking about, one of the things that we're really conscious about is that transition from that sort of traditional leasing model to more of a serviced, managed office model. So we're working with an operational partner, and our idea will be, and I've always liked the service office model. We've been a customer of a service office model for the last 9 years.
And managed offices, managed is really good. I feel like managed is that halfway house within a grown-up lease, and they serviced. It's that little bit in the middle, and I think more people will want to go down that route moving forwards. Most people won't want to go and spend. If you're a growing business, are you going to want to go and spend £250,000 capex to fit out an office that you might only be in for the next 5-7 years? You're not going to want to go and do it. The managed space is really, really good. Yeah,
and I think we just need the valuation community to catch up with it a little bit more, so that they can understand it a little bit better, and so then we can, the banks and lenders can get a bit more comfortable with it, and they're not as reliant on the 5 or 10 year lease to the AAA covenant, because actually I don't see that. I see that as inherently more risky than actually if you've got 100 individual tenants who might rent from year to year, but if one goes,
you just replace one. You're not replacing a big chunk of your asset.
No. So it's a lot easier in that regard. Taking it back to short-term lending, what's the one thing that we're not talking about that we should be talking about?
In the short-term lending space?
Yeah, I say short-term lending, but specialist finance maybe.
Okay, so what's the one area that we should be talking about? Short-term lenders lending based on an investment valuation rather than just simple bricks and mortar. And I think there's not, and that probably applies more to commercial than what it does to residential. But can also encompass things like social housing when you've got a lease to a local authority or a social housing provider with a decent balance sheet. But I think that's the area where I think there needs to probably be a bit of movement. When you've got some of your bigger assets that need to be, you can't just look at it on a bricks and mortar basis, because that's really not where the value is. Yeah. I understand the risks attributed to it, but I think there probably needs to be a little bit more work done in that space.
Yeah, something to think about, something to ponder on, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's just changing the subject now a little bit. Recently, just released yesterday, in fact, podcast guest Daniel Daggers. He's
I'm having breakfast with him next week.
Nice.
I am.
So his series just launched yesterday, Buying London on Netflix.
I'm going to watch it.
I watched it a couple of episodes last night with the wife.
Was it good?
Actually, really enjoyed it. Nice wind down show.
Good.
Do you think there's something a show like that would be quite good for the specialist finance industry? Would you be signing up for the role of Daniel
Absolutely not
for a Netflix series?
Not for me. No, not for me. I think Daniel has developed such an amazing personal brand. He's done really, really well, and I'm really excited to see the show. And we had obviously he's new in his new business. I was relatively new in my new business. We had a catch up the other day, and we were just talking. We were picking each other's brains, and I really like him, and I wish him every success. And I think his show is going to be good.
Yeah,
I've got a feeling it's going to be good.
Oh yeah, I imagine that follow account on Instagram. I think it was when he came on the podcast last year. I think he had about 60,000 followers on Instagram.
Now?
Yeah, it's going to.
Let's have a look.
Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Okay, let's do it. Hold on. So at the moment, he's up to 68,400.
That will grow over the next few days for sure.
That's going up over the next few days
for sure. He's developed a really good brand.
Yeah.
And he's going to be great.
Yeah. But not for you. Not one for you.
No, it's not for me.
But you can see.
I think you'd probably get half the show would be bleeped out and censored if it was me anyway.
Why not? That's what we want, isn't it?
Yeah.
You want to be a bit spicy, a bit colourful. All right. If it wasn't you, naming one name in the industry, who would you say would love? Who would you say would love it?
I'm going to stitch him up absolutely royally now.
Let's go.
Danny Walters, you need to go and do the show.
All right. Okay. Netflix, if you're listening.
He's got the story to tell.
All right.
Yeah. So Danny's a good friend. He's done really, really well. But I'd love a show with Danny and Mark Goldberg. For me, that would be absolute comedy gold.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It would be fantastic.
Oh yeah. Okay. I mean, all right. Okay. It's there. All right.
We're going to push it.
We can be exec producers.
Absolutely. Right. I'm all over it.
Done. All right, brilliant. So let's just start the wind down a little bit, just towards the end. Outside of work, I know obviously work's a big part of your huge part of your life.
Yep.
How do you like to spend your time? Who do you like to spend your time with?
So I was lucky enough to get engaged last year, and we've got a baby on the way.
Congratulations!
So I'm absolutely over the moon. Baby due in 8 weeks. We don't know what we're having. It's a surprise. It's our first. So life is about to change.
It certainly is
for the better. But it's the next chapter in my journey and my story, I guess. I've lived a great life. I've developed a really good career for myself. But I think priorities change, right? When you've got a family, it's you just look at things, and that mindset has already started to kick in slightly for me already. My business is always going to be my business, but ultimately you've got a little person that's going to be relying on you for the rest of their life. So I'm really, really excited for what that's going to bring. And in terms of everything else, it's spending time with family. I'm very, very family orientated person. I love spending time with my family, my close friends, playing golf, going to the football. That's how I like to spend my time.
And you obviously got very good taste in football teams. So
very good taste, the best taste in football teams.
Well, we were saying we were doing the sound check and we're asking who's going to win the league next season.
It's done.
So you're saying Arsenal?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I was listening to the Arscast a couple of days ago, and they're saying that in order for Arsenal to win the league, we might have to go invincible again. I mean, that's how extreme it's.
No, because I don't think there's. I mean, listen, you went back a few years, and was it Liverpool that got 99 points and didn't win the league,
which is crazy, right?
Which is crazy, but I do think that I think it's changing. We also don't know what's going to happen with Man City with their charges.
Yeah.
Okay. But like I said to you, you need to compare apples with apples, and you're competing with sovereign wealth, with the best manager that's ever lived, the best number 10 on the planet, probably the best number 6 on the planet, and one of the best centre forwards with unlimited resources. So to go all that way toe to toe with them, I think it's a massive accomplishment. And you just keep moving forwards. Listen, only one team can win the league. So just by not winning it doesn't make everything a huge failure.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm so proud of what they've done, and I'm happy that we've that the club has come back together and the fans and club and manager and players are all aligned, going in the same direction. It's a great time to be an Arsenal fan, regardless of not winning the league.
Well, the banter era is over, that's for sure. So yeah.
There was never a banter era. Just don't even let them talk to you. It's not worth your energy.
And obviously, with the baby coming in a couple of months' time, I know you like to spend your summers in Cyprus. Is that going to be a bit more challenging this year?
Yeah, and this year it's a no-go. So baby's due in July, so it's going to be bang in the middle of the summer. So I think it's get rested, get into a routine, and yeah, it will be next year, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I suppose one of the benefits of Cyprus is at least you've got nice climate, so you can always, when the baby's 3-4 months old, you can get out there and you still have a nice time.
Exactly that.
So yeah.
Exactly that.
All good. Okay, last couple of questions, but we talked obviously about some big influences in your life. I mean, are there any people that you sort of stand out to you as mentors, people that you kind of you'd want to acknowledge publicly or otherwise?
Biggest mentors in my life. I've been lucky to have a few around me. I wouldn't say mentors per se. I'd say there are people that I have respected what they've done, and have given me good advice over the years. But I wouldn't say there's one specific.
There's not one individual. Yeah.
There's not one specific. One person that has been a bit of a mentor to me was one of the owners of LendHub, Prod Adamu. So Prod is actually a family friend of mine. And I'd say he's probably been a good mentor. He was always a very, very good sounding board for me growing up as trying to be in the business and trying to develop my career. And sometimes you're a little bit lost. But I've known Prod for a very long time, so probably since I was about 15 years old. His son, Chris, is one of my nearest and dearest. So he was always a very, very good sounding board for him, a great man again. So I'd probably say, yeah, he's one of the people that have been Prod.
Okay, Prod Adamu. Okay, that's nice. Well, Prod, shout out to you. So thanks for all the work that you've done in giving Nick some advice, mentorship and inspiration.
Yeah.
And last question, obviously you recounted the story of, back when you were 18 and, the angry text when the secretary didn't call you that evening. If you were to give some self-talk, some advice to the person you were then, as the person you are now, and knowing what you know now and what you've been through, what would you say to yourself?
Back yourself and don't worry about anybody else. And don't let anybody bring you down. And don't let anybody tell you that there's things that you can't go and do. And I genuinely mean that, because throughout my whole life, there's always people that are trying to pull you back. Don't do this, don't do that. Back yourself. If you believe in something, go for it. There's nobody in this planet that should tell you how to go and live your life. And that is it. Just go with it. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, you've learned from it. And I think the best way to learn is by failing. And I'll tell you what, I've made some. I was going to swear then. I've made.
You need to swear. We swear on this podcast. It's fun.
I've made some fucking mistakes in my life, and I'll tell you what. But every single time I've made that mistake, I've learned from it, and that's all you can. That's all you can really do. But don't have regrets, because at the time it was the right decision to make, and you made it, and you're the one that's got to live with the consequences. But I think just back yourself. Don't worry about anyone else, and don't. We're in a people industry. Be good to people. Have integrity. Have transparency. Have honesty, and people will always respect that. And you'll make a living off the back of that as well. Definitely.
Awesome. Well, Nick, it's been an absolute pleasure. We've been overdue a catch up anyway, Absolutely. so we've really done one. I'm sure a lot of our guests, a lot of our audience would be very interested to get in touch with you and reach out and get some advice or pick your brain, or maybe they've got a deal that they need some help with.
I'm always available.
what's the best way that someone can reach out to you?
Drop me an email, look me up on probably LinkedIn or on my Instagram account. But yeah, or just pick up the phone. Let's go old school, man. Pick up the phone and phone me.
Pick up the phone and start dialing.
Start dialing. I'm always happy to have a chat. So, Mike, thanks so much for inviting me on. I've had a really, really good time.
Brilliant. You've been a great guest. And thank you to our audience for listening. We'll chat to you again soon. I've been Michael Dean at Property_Funder. Thanks again to Nick Christofi, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Well done, mate.